Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mouthy Money podcast. I have some very good news to start the podcast today with, and that is it is December. Christmas is upon us. I am joined by my valuable co-host, Chris Tuite, who is Head of Consumer Finance at MRM. Chris, hello.
Hi, Ed. I can end my reign of terror over the office radio. There's been absolutely zero Christmas songs until the 1st of December. Now we can have a little bit of Mariah Carey on.
I've heard nothing but complaints on the on the company Slack channel about you turning off the radio because it's Christmas songs.
Bar humbug till the 1st of December, and then I'm fully into it. You got to time your run, Ed.
Okay.
You can't just be celebrating Christmas in mid-November. Otherwise, by the time it gets to 8th of December, you're sick of it already. Yeah, come on.
I know.
Not right.
I, on the other hand, love Christmas. Today we've got a really interesting guest. Actually, he has co-founded an app called Beanstalk. His name is Cem Eyi. Cem, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Ed, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
So because it's December, we've kind of hooked you into talking a little bit about something to do with Christmas, but we've got you to talk something a little bit more, should we say, responsible than the frivolities of Christmas, and that is to talk about children's savings. Obviously, because it's Christmas, though, that's what we are kicking off with. Before we do that, though, Cem, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and tell us, kind of in a word, what is Beanstalk?
Yeah, sure. So Beanstalk is a junior ISA app that helps families link up together and put money away for their child's future. It's stocks and shares junior ISA, so kind of without giving advice, if you've got an 18-year time horizon, you might want to think about investment returns rather than keeping it into cash and having inflation chew away at its buying power over that time frame. We won Best Junior ISA now 3 years in a running from the Good Money Guide Awards, which we're very pleased with. And those awards, our customers have actually helped us to win those by filling out the surveys and answering questions. So very, very happy with that. My background before we launched Beanstalk, it's part of the same business called Kidsstart, which is a shopping club that helps families save money for their kids when they shop online. So under the hood, perhaps not dissimilar to a Top Cashback or Quidco, we're leveraging affiliate network relationships to partner with retailers. But instead of having that commission go into your account, it actually gets saved up and put into any child account you nominate. And really, when we launched Kidsstart, that's about 2008 now, there used to be a thing in the UK, I don't know if you guys will remember it, called the Child Trust Fund.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So every child born between 2001 and 2010, I think, January, got given one of these child trust funds, and the government put £250 into it to kickstart their long-term savings and investments future. And when we launched Kidsstart, every child had a ready-made account, and we'd actually partnered with many of the child trust fund providers who would offer Kidsstart as a neat way to get parents to put additional money into the account and to engage with the product. Child trust fund, whether you like it or not, got scrapped a number of years ago and replaced with the optional junior ISA. And it was very interesting. You saw this kind of case where every child's got an account, CTF. About half the parents were making additional top-ups into it. Sometimes they were using a cashback service like us to do it. And then you look at the junior ISA, they replaced it, only about 10, well, based on how you cut the numbers from HMRC, we think about 10 to 15% of kids have a junior ISA, and 2/3 of the subscriptions are going into interest-bearing cash products. So it's kind of like, there's a big gap there. And so that was really the idea behind Beanstalk. How can we make it really easy, simple app, simple registration process, takes 2 minutes from install to getting an account, and really make it straightforward for many more families to start putting money away for their kids' future.
Before we move on, that angle about the kind of child trust funds being almost like auto-enrollment for children's savings, that's really interesting. Really, I never thought of it that way, I must admit, but it seems, and now thinking about it, it seems like a real shame that they didn't keep that up. We'll dig a little bit more into what Beanstalk offers and actually how this relates to Christmas, which we've unfortunately roped you in to talk to us about. I'm going to start with some personal chit chat though. Chris, what is Christmas like for you in your household? Do you spend lots of money? I mean, you sound pretty grinchy already.
No, come on, do me a favour. I'm not that bad. No, yeah, we do. Of course we do. We just, I'm really disorganised. I'm that guy who's like walking around John Lewis on the 23rd of December trying to find stocking fillers for the kids and my wife. Luckily, she's already told me what to buy the kids and her in terms of a big present, because I can't be trusted to buy it myself. But yeah, no, I really do. We get into it, make sure that we spend quite a lot on food and not so much booze anymore, but we used to, Tanya likes a couple of ice cold Baileys with a lot of ice, and I like the odd pale ale and a nice glass of red, and lots of Christmas films and things like that. So yeah, we really do go to town on it. And Tanya sort of, as you probably noticed in our conversation, said, I'm a bit more of a saver. Tan's a bit more of a spender, and so she tends to win out from sort of mid-December onwards, and I think that's fair enough. So yeah, no, it's good. We have a lot of fun. I do have in my mind, do I want to buy the latest plastic rubbishy thing that's going to end up on a scrap heap in about 3 months' time? I do that kind of. The older I've got, the more grinchy I've got about that. So yeah, I did see somewhere that apparently there were 3,500 tons of plastic toy waste in 2023, which just sounds like an absolutely crazy amount of crap, frankly. And I know toys are going to bring these young children joy, so I don't want to sound too grinchy on that score. But maybe if you're going to buy 2 toys, and maybe consider sticking one in a long-term, one of your presents into a long-term investing vehicle. That seems to me like a better present. I'm sure I would have appreciated that when I was turning 18. But anyway, there we go. What about you, Ed?
So yeah, this is the gentle nudge of the podcast we're leading towards. So I'm going to quote you a stat before I tell you what we do. So I had a little bit of a look around on what typical spending figures are. Hargreaves Lansdowne had some research out in September. Apparently, it's around average £611 per person spent on Christmas.
Per person?
Per person on average.
Toppy.
1 in 7 going to spend more than £1,000 on Christmas.
Probably.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'm probably a long way from spending either of those figures. But it changes, to be honest, because we've got a young family now, so things seem to be moving on a little bit. In the past, my wife Ellen had she had a bit of a thing about me buying her the Liberty Advent calendar, which is as expensive as you might think it is.
How expensive, Ed? Figures, come on.
Several hundred pounds.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's always the thing with these advent calendars where they tell you, oh no, if you spend £300, but you get £1,000 worth of products in it. Which if you do like an audit, I can see Jem shaking his head there. If you do an audit, if you do an audit of it, technically that is true. But I mean, how many of them does she actually use? But I think we're a bit cheaper now. We've got a son, and he's the main focus anyway. So, and he likes wooden toys that cost £5 from Aldi. So
yeah, that's the great thing about when they're young. She's my eldest now. She all she wanted was a furry bunny last year. That was it, just a teddy. Should have seen her face. Less than 20 quid. It's never going to be as cheap as that ever again. But yeah, it was brilliant. So there we go.
I'm just wondering how can any. Yeah, well, I was just wondering that stat where you said the average spend per person is £611, and I thought that's impossible. Then I realised if you're going to keep your heating on over December, and that's included in the spending average for Christmases, then we might be getting somewhere close to that.
Chestnuts have to roast on the open fire instead, Jim. We have to find fuel outside.
Yeah, but I better start chopping wood as we speak. I mean, look, I think it's still going to. We want to enjoy Christmas. For me, it's about time being spent with family. I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are older, one's younger. Trying to get the older ones back in as well. It's nice to have everyone with us. Chris, a bit like you as well, I seem to think our booze spending has gone down. I think our general alcohol consumption is kind of going down. But I did notice a trend last year in that whatever booze that we stopped buying, the older kids started buying because they wanted to stock up for when their friends come round as well between Christmas and New Year. So It's not just your spending anymore. But yeah, you know, uh, there was a stat that I was reading somewhere, and I'm going to mangle it, so apologies. We can dig it out later. But they had some behaviouralists look at children and how quickly they got bored with new toys, and then I think they kind of extrapolated that, and so it's something crazy like 90% of toys that are given at Christmas, the kid's going to be bored with it within 40 minutes. Not going to even make it to Boxing Day. And then the stat about how much of that stuff then actually ends up getting used or trashed or then ending up in landfill. It's just crazy. And so I think, talking about Christmas, the same applies to birthdays as well. I'm sure if you've got kids at school age, you're being dragged to the birthday parties of the other kids in the class, and on the way to the party, it's generally a stop off at the supermarket, and we're kind of going, right, is it a boy, Meccano, Lego? Is it a girl, arts and crafts set, colouring, beads? And is that really? I mean, and for children that are close friends, you kind of know them a little bit better. You can actually get something that they like. But if it's the 15th birthday party or the Christmas gift, it's just you're not really going to know if that person resonates with that kid. So my rule of thumb now is if it's something that I really know is special for that child, it kind of hits the buttons for it. It's an interest, it's a hobby, or it's a book or something that's kind of really kind of add something to their development and their fun and their life. Get the gift, let's not be a Grinch. If not, maybe think about doing something else. Maybe say to the parent, hey, look, would you, do they have an account? I'll bung some money in the account. Mm-hmm. And for my own kids as well, clearly we're saving regularly for their future as well. But nieces and nephews, especially because I know they've got a Beanstalk account, I can just put a top up into that, and they're just as thrilled with that often as well, especially if they're more like 12, 13, 14 of age.
So one really good tip I saw recently, and actually which we've enacted this year. Well, obviously it's actually probably the first time we've been able to, but on that point about kind of waste and kids, dumping toys after 5 minutes playing with them kind of thing. What we actually did was it was actually my son's birthday in October, so we did a big audit of toys that he doesn't play with anymore. And actually one of the tips I saw was if you're going to get your kids new toys, get rid of old ones way before Christmas and take them to the charity shops, because people will obviously be really grateful for that, being able to find cheap stuff in charity shops ahead of Christmas instead of having to wait after. And obviously take stuff to charity. Don't just chuck it out if you can. Obviously, if it's in terrible condition and that kind of thing, then, take it to recycling or whatever. But that was a really nice tip I saw.
One of the things that we do, Ed, actually, just quickly, there's a group of us all live sort of close-ish to each other in North London, and we've got kids of different ages, couple of years gap between each one and new ones popping up. And so what we tend to do is just recycle the toys around everybody. So that's been quite an interesting way of doing it, really. It's like, well, you have this bouncer until your child reaches 18 months, and then we'll find somebody else in the friend group who needs it. So, and same with clothes, actually. It's like, it's the hand-me-down thing, but for toys. And then eventually when they're all a bit older, then we'll probably do what you just said there and sort of see how much of it we can palm off on charity shops and other people who are having kids in the area. But that's quite a nice way of not, buying five bouncers rather than just having one that will do for that period of time. Seems to be a good way of doing it. Books and things like that work too. So it's a nice sort of spend conscious, but also environmental conscious way of doing it, I think.
Does your child get involved in the toy audit though, Ed? Or are they just saying, yes, I'm definitely going to play with that? No, we can't get rid of that.
He's only one. I mean, he's 1 year old.
Oh,
so
okay.
Jem, did you imagine there with a clipboard? Is that it?
Stuff doesn't get played with for long anyway. But yeah, he's still only very small. Well, he's got things that he's now like, his favorite things that he's got a little like stuffed animal. Labrador, because we have a black Labrador, and he's got a little stuffed animal black Labrador that he now drags around the house on a little lead and that kind of thing. Stuff he's starting to love, but he's still very little. But as he gets older, we'll see.
Chris, sorry, just what Chris mentioned about having that network of families that kind of with children across the age groups. It's really interesting actually, because there's a startup, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but maybe we can dig it out. That's actually trying to kind of replicate that across people who aren't in friendship networks. And so kind of, the very expensive prams and car seats, which you only get for your first child, by the way. For the second child is we don't really need all the expensive stuff. But they're basically going through. I mean, I know there's one that's doing it on bicycles. So you start with the balance bike, the tricycle, the 10-inch wheels, the 12-inch wheels. But there's another company I saw recently that's trying to do that across all of the equipment, clothing, and toys and stuff that you need for children. And I think it's a great idea. The less that we can waste stuff because they grow out of it quickly, the better.
Yeah, get that 3,500 tons down. That's what I say.
Yeah.
We'll have to dig that. We'll dig that name out for anyone listening who's interested, and we'll pop that in the show notes after. This brings us to Cem, Beanstalk more specifically, because I think the idea behind today's episode was really obviously discussing, the kind of stuff we do around Christmas time and some of these things, these issues that we face. But actually, can you do something a little bit more financially interesting and perhaps responsible? I don't want to couch it too in those terms, maybe, but something that's a good a gift that's going to provide a long term, literally a long term return. Yeah. Talk us through Beanstalk. How does it work? What in practical terms, and what it is.
Yeah, sure. So with Beanstalk, one of the kind of central themes around the whole app is to make it really easy for other people to be able to contribute into a child's junior ISA. And that's one of the unique features, really, for our offering. There's two ways that we've approached that. One is you can invite someone to be a linked donor. That's what we call it. So, for example, under HMRC rules, a junior ISA can only have one registered contact. That registered contact has to have legal guardian status for the child. So typically you've got one parent opening the account. But the most common linked donor is the other parent. It's the spouse, because they both, and we've set it up so that you can set the permissions for what each linked donor can see or can't see on the account. So, for example, my wife is a linked donor with full permission, full view. She can see all the balance on the account, all the transactions, the investment growth, everything that's gone in. I was going to say gone in and out, but there is no out with the junior ISA. But, for example, my wife's brother, the uncle, he can only see his contributions because that's just how I wanted to set it up. So that's what we call our linked donors, and they're permanently linked unless they want to boot them off. They're permanently linked to the child. They can see, my daughter's called Eliza, so they can see Eliza on their version of the app. They can either see all the account history or just their contributions. They can use all the tools that we've got on Beanstalk to make a contribution. They can do a one-off top-up. They can set a regular direct debit. We've done open banking integration, so you can do roundup. So they can do all the tools, the cashback service that we do via Kidstarter. They can use all the tools, and I'll get a little notification saying, Uncle is sending £10, whatever, and I can reply to that and say thank you. So that's a kind of close family network of gifters. The other thing we have is very, very straightforward, simple, a gift link, which I can share with anyone and everyone, and then they can use that link to make a top up into the child's account and send me a message. And that's much easier just to put it on a WhatsApp group, send it. They don't have to register. They don't have to get the app. It's just a link that says Jen would like you to save for Eliza, some money, and then send a message. And that's much easier for kind of the ad hoc special occasions, Christmas and birthdays.
How much is what's the going rate for a decent contribution these days, Jem? I know that's probably a bit of a how long's a piece of string, but with inflation and everything else like that, if I am panicking going to that child's birthday party and trying to say that topping up their junior ISA account's a good way forward, what's the going rate? What are you seeing?
It's I see kind of two different types of gifts being sent. So actually grandparents tend to have a little bit more disposable income and tend to actually want to think about it in a little bit more of a serious way. So their gifts could be several hundreds, if not, in the three figures. Non-grandparent or gift-linked gifts tend to be a lot lower, and it could be for anywhere from £10 to £100. £50 tends to be a pretty common number that I see on the gift links going through. So there really is a spectrum there, depending on who's giving the gift and what are they doing it to really boost the child's future as a grandparent would, or are we doing it because we know, hey, I probably would have ended up spending, say, 30, 40 quid on a Lego set on the way to the party.
Is there a minimum contribution? How low can you go if you know?
For gift links, our minimum's £10.
Right.
We have a maximum contribution on gift links as well, just because of the way we've set up our policy. So that's £250. But then if there's a donor that's contributing through the app, then the maximum is just the Junior ISA maximum subscription limit, which is obviously at the moment £9,000 a year.
Cool.
This is really interesting. Chris and I have talked about children's savings on the podcast before, and Chris, I think, is very into it, and I think for reasons I'll get him to explain in a second why. I've always been slightly more cynical, I'd say, about using junior ISAs, mainly because my view of it is I might as well just top up my own ISA first before I start using junior ISAs, and then as someone put it to me once, don't you trust your own child when they turn 18? I will say though,
nowhere,
Jem,
clearly.
Yeah, the answer is clearly no. No, I will say though, Jem, I think the kind of the tools that you're offering there with Beanstalk, I actually find that really compelling, because you're enabling it, a much wider network of people to potentially contribute to this fund. I think it's really nice, actually.
Yeah.
And you've pushed me halfway to opening an account, quite frankly.
We'll get you over the line, Ed, by the end of this.
Okay.
So look, go ahead.
Go on. No, you go. You go.
So look, we're still early on in our development. We're about 3 years into the product, but we've been developing it rapidly. And as part of that, obviously, we go and speak to a lot of customers and non-customers, although they're harder to reach, obviously. So what you're talking about is, I would not say it's an uncommon concern amongst parents. What will I be able to rely on that 18-year-old to treat that sum of money responsibly? And then the other argument, or the flip side to that, is, well, I'm not maximizing my adult ISA allowance, so why should I even think about a junior ISA allowance? I'm going to tackle that one first a little bit. Obviously, with the junior ISA, it's a one-way part. It is locked away for your child, and you can't dip into it. And so, I'm thinking of the Victorian David Beckham meme, when she's saying, I'm saving for my kid's future. And he's going, really? How? In an ISA, that you can dip into any time. It doesn't really add up for me. I've, definitely hypothecated money in my mind that I was going to use for other purposes. And then, stuff happens, unfortunately. So, it's not as easy as just saying I'm saving for my kids because I put it in an ISA. It really does have to be locked away, in my opinion. The other point around will they be responsible? Who knows, right? Clearly, but let me tell you about what's happened to some of the junior ISAs that we've seen already begin to mature on Beanstalk, and what's happened to them. And we've actually got more AUM since the junior ISAs have become adult ISAs. Now, clearly, some of them have withdrawn all the money, and I don't know if they've gone and spent that on a rave in Ibiza, or if they've gone. We don't know. But overall, if you look at the cohort of not so many junior ISAs that have already reached maturity with us, there's more AUM in there than was before they matured, which is incredible to me. And obviously, that's because they're leaving the money intact. There's been some asset growth, not because they're earning lots of money and making additional contributions to it. The large junior ISAs tend to be the ones that stick, and the small junior ISAs tend to be the ones that go and have or have a little bit of withdrawals. So, I can understand we don't know what our children are going to be like, but what I can see happening is what we would all want to encourage to happen, which is they're treating it seriously. And I would imagine although a few of the parents I've spoken to have told me this, but I imagine this is quite common. The child doesn't turn 18 and then suddenly out of the blue, the parent reveals to them that they've got 10, 15, 20,000 pounds in a junior ISA.
Although, hang on, sorry, Jim, I think that was Ed's plan at some point. He was not going to tell them about it. So he might be the first, but they don't do that. You say, do go on.
Clearly, what it looks like they're doing is they're engaging with the child and saying, "Look, this money has been put away for you for years. It's been growing. It's not just come from me. It's come from grandma. It's come from auntie."
It's a
look at
learning
the message.
opportunity as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's an opportunity. And one of the things that we have on the development radar for Beanstalk is to have a child view and a children's version of the app. So, for example, you put the app in child mode and give it to your 6-year-old, they can't do any damage, right? But they can kind of play with it, learn with it, and just try to build out some content around that for simple rules around saving and investing. The child app that we're thinking about having is something you can give perhaps when they're 15, 16 years of age, where they can actually have a login and do a little bit more involved. So parents are clearly engaging with the kids as they are growing up, and I think that they're being told, hey, you've got to treat this seriously. It's not just pennies from heaven.
Mm.
So on the practical side, in terms of what the funds are doing on Beanstalk, it's stocks and shares, isn't it? So where are those? What kind of investments is and what's the approach on from Beanstalk on that?
Yeah, Ed, we've tried to keep it really simple. We've got two funds, a shares fund and a cash fund. There's a little slider between the two, and we'll show you what that allocation choice would have meant if you'd have invested £1,000 10 years ago. The shares fund we offer is Fidelity Global Equity Tracker. The cash fund's an LNG money market fund. Both low cost. On the share side, obviously diverse global equities. We have intentionally kept it very simple and limited. We've not gone down the thematic fund route. We've not got down the choose from thousands of individual funds, because we just think, you've got 18, you might be able to make a better choice, but, you're probably at the very sophisticated end of the investor mindset at that point, and you're probably quite well served with other platforms that are out there on the market. What we're trying to do is make it simple and more attractive for the people who are opening junior ISAs, but putting it into a cash product, because I suspect, and from when we've spoken to some of them, they often get put off and confused by very complicated fund choices. So we've tried to make it really simple. We might add some more funds down the road, but only if it still looks simple.
Yeah, look, this is the point of the podcast where I give the little investment disclaimer that obviously we're not dishing out financial advice here, so people need to do their research when they do investments and that kind of thing. That being said, it sounds pretty much exactly how my pension is currently allocated. Just stick it in an index tracker, forget about it, leave it for years and years. And that's the really nice thing, isn't it, with a junior ISA? You've got such a long time horizon there, potentially from a child from day one of their life. To just let that money grow over a long time, and the kind of the potential for growth of the money that you put in there is phenomenal over time. So
I was looking at the performance chart of the, you could look at most of them going to have this same shape of this fund, right? And it's kind of go, oh, what's that little thing? Oh, that's COVID, right? That was March 2020. Okay, I get that. And so, one of my minor gripes with this whole, I would say the industry, but the way that that often the media, talks about, and it was, what was it, a 10 to 30%, swing in markets in reflection to a major global pandemic. Great, but every time that there's a that kind of a swing or a downturn, people who just keep half an eye on the news are seeing words like plunge, tumble, all these kind of negative concepts. And then what the news doesn't do for the next 6 months is, it grew 0.5%. Oh, it's back to where it was before. So all you see is the negatives if you're keeping half an eye on the business news and not the stuff. So of course, past performance not a guarantee. Nothing's guaranteed to always go up. But I do think that that's conditioning people to be, especially in the UK, conditioning people to be very risk averse, not understand what you're talking about, Ed, which is you've got an 18-year time horizon. You can ride out most things. I hope by making it just simple, we can do something to help them along.
Yeah. Chris, you've got, and this is what I was going to ask as well. Actually, you've got junior ISAs. Have you got junior ISA for both?
I have, now? Yeah. Day one for my 2-month-old, I set one up.
Okay. It's going to be awkward when the younger one's got a better return when
Do you know what?
turns 18 than the older
It did
one.
actually occur to me. It's like might have to do some rebalancing here when they get a bit older. Problem is, there's a gap, so you're guessing, aren't you? But yeah, I don't know how. That is a dilemma that did occur to me. But I basically bought identical funds for both, but there's like a 3-year gap between the performance of them, so there may be a slight disparity. But I'm hoping it won't cause too much consternation between them both. If not, we can sort it out between themselves.
It's crazy because if we often see existing customers come back and opening the second and third junior ISA with us because they've already got the first one. Like, why wouldn't you have all your accounts in one place? It's not uncommon, Chris, to see some of the folks going, "Oh, I've just realised, one's got a few £100 in it because they've only made a few months of contributions, and the other one's got 2-3 grand in it." And I go, "Yeah, that's how time works." But I think we're all plugged in to want to make sure that our kids are likely to end up with something equal, or at least feel that we're treating them equally. So you're not alone in that instinct at all.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how they both approach it as well. I already get the sense of differing personalities. So ultimately, like, it's a learning opportunity. That's the big thing. Like, obviously, I want to give them a good start in life, but it's how can I have a conversation with a real life thing that gives them a sense of ownership and responsibility? And that, to me, feels like a conversation that we can have on an ongoing basis when they're old enough for it. For now, we're still mucking around with, put your coins in a piggy bank, but once they get a bit older and get a bit more of an understanding of it, then we'll see. And then, if there is a difference, maybe I'll take some out of my own ISA, Ed, and top it up. But the ring fencing is the key thing. It's like, well, I bought you the same funds, I topped it up by the same amount. I didn't, dip into savings at different points, kept it as consistent as possible. And I think the other thing with that consistency for me, Jem, is you mentioned about the market plunge thing. I agree. Like, I remember talking to Ed about panicking when I saw my pension gains wiped off. I hadn't lost money really, but all the gains that I'd had around about COVID, I was like, oh my God. So I spoke to a well-known financial commentator and just said, what should I do? And he was like, step away from the laptop, just calm down, like, don't worry about it, which is great advice, which I did. And it is over and above where it kind of needs to be. So, but that kind of making it consistent, making it as unemotional as possible means that I'm less likely to be susceptible to those worries. It's like the plan I set 18 years ago is this plan, and we're going to stick to that plan until their 18th birthday. And then, we'll obviously have to think of it before then, but in some ways it's kind of out of my hands, and that's probably better because I'm prone to all sorts of catastrophizing when the markets dip 5%. So take me out of it.
Yeah, that's it. And then, there's the, it's that effect. If you are putting a regular, let's say our regular is somewhere between £30 or £40 a month, that's the regular contribution to a junior ISA, right? Which is, I think, very reasonable. Some people are doing more, and some grandparents are putting in large one-off top-ups, like I mentioned earlier. But the idea of pound cost averaging, right? So because there's a constant fixed amount coming in, you actually end up buying more when the units are cheaper and less when the units are higher than if you'd have just said, well, I'm just going to take all that money and put it in one go at the start of the year. And so you've got so much going for you when you just approach it with that slightly dispassionate, we're going to do it consistently mindset. And all you need to do is stick to your system and let it play out.
Right, I feel sufficiently shamed at this point with Christmas weeks away.
I thought you started a pension, weren't you, Ed? Or are you just going to save it in your own ISA?
Children's pension. Well, yeah, we've had discussions about the children's pension thing, but I don't know. This seems more fun, frankly. The children's pension thing is just extremely Scrooge.
Yeah, having a go at me about the Christmas music.
I know,
jeez,
terrible.
You can't have your money till you're 60. Come on, Ed.
And I've already feel sorry for my 1-year-old son because all he's got at the moment is a load of premium bonds, which have been foisted on him by a great grandmother. Which, lovely, thank you, but what are you going to do with that?
Are you going to buy a Euro Millions ticket as well? I think there's a rollover this week.
Well, I did do that, Jem, and we are actually we have actually done a podcast about the lottery. So.
Oh, right, okay. Listen, Ed, I don't know if this counts as an improper financial inducement, but if we get you over the line with a Beanstalk account, send me your child's gift link because I don't know what to get for Christmas otherwise.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Let's talk. Let's go offline. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm joking.
We'll do a deal. Yeah.
Yeah, Cem, this has really been really enlightening conversation, I think. And I think the takeaway, I mean, certainly for me, is that, you know, we spend a lot of money at Christmas. I think giving the gift of financial freedom, even if it takes 18 years, is a pretty powerful one, though. So thank you for telling us all about Beanstalk and kind of obviously what you can do for people.
Really enjoyed it.
And Chris, thank you for being my foil and making me see the error of my ways on this.
Knew we'd get there in the end. Always a pleasure. Go off now to listen to Jonah Louie and Paul McCartney and put my Christmas hat on.
I can't believe you haven't put George Michael on yet.
Oh yeah, George. Yeah, God. Yeah, Wham. Although Mariah's the only one I still turn the radio down, but I'm getting outvoted. I can't carry on.
Okay.
Right, I'm going to put this podcast out of its misery now. Thank you both. It's been an absolute pleasure as ever. And thank you everybody for listening. Obviously catch us with the weekly podcast. So thank you very much and goodbye. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. You can also follow all our latest updates on TikTok, Instagram, or X. Finally, check out all our money stories on the Mouthy Money website and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for all the latest straight to your inbox. Thank you and goodbye.